there's a lot of common problems that you're going to run into if you teach beginning trumpet players and brass players for any length of time. But one of the hardest to diagnose and address is articulation. And specifically when you have a young player who is articulating by just puffing air instead of using their tongue to make the articulation precise. So what they're doing is kind of going like hoo, 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 instead of two, 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 two. And this can be a real bear because this doesn't stop them from being able to play for the first 6 months of band. They can still play Mary Had a Little Lamb, and it sounds just about like everybody else. But then when you need this player, this young kid, to start articulating with any kind of accent or real clarity or speed, it becomes impossible to them. And the issue is they've trained themselves for a number of months doing it wrong, and they don't have any idea. When you say, no, you need to use your tongue, they think they are. They are doing it right. You know, to them, what they're doing is right. So it can be very tricky to figure out how to convince them or show them the proper way to do it, because you can't see the tongue obviously in the mouth when the kid is playing. You shouldn't ever be able to see the tongue when the kid's playing a trumpet. Just a little tip there. So I remember having this problem with a very good young student when I first started teaching private lessons. She went to Beaumont, one of the strongest middle school band programs in the state. And she came in, played great, could play high, great flexibility, beautiful tone. But her articulation everything was poo, 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 poo. There was no pop to it whatsoever. It was slow, awkward, didn't work. And as a young teacher, I didn't have much experience dealing with this, and I really didn't know what to do. I didn't give up. But we essentially spent an entire summer. That's how long she ended up working with me, just trying to figure this out. So what did I learn from that experience that I can pass on to you and maybe save you some time and frustration? Probably the best thing to do is to introduce the proper way of tonguing to a kid who's just playing without a tongue, and to demonstrate what it sounds like when you don't play with the tongue. I'm not sure how well this will pick up, but maybe you'll be able to hear what I'm doing. So like, it'll sound kind of like that, huh, 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 because they're just pushing the air. Now with the tongue, obviously, hopefully it's clear. Ideally it's clear. So how do you get someone playing like the first example to play like the second example? You have to show them what it is for the tongue to kind of stop the air. A couple things you can do. One, maybe just tell them to blow air out of their mouth and put their finger over the aperture. And they can sort of see you do this. And then see if you can get them to do that with their tongue then. So you continue to blow, but you're using the tongue to stop the air. Now, ideally, when we're playing trumpet at a high level, we don't want to think about the tongue stopping the air. The tongue just kind of pops it, and you still get a pretty continuous air flow, the sensation of a continuous air flow. But for now, this is a way to do it. Now, once we can do those first two steps, and then maybe have them take the mouthpiece up to the horn and just go. So hopefully they're getting the feeling of continuing to blow, but there being that interruption. Now, the second thing we can do then is do it with the tongue. So you can see I'm still blowing, but I'm getting the tongue to stop the air. Now, we go to the third phase of this plan. So we have doing it just with the lips, then we have doing it with the mouthpiece and the finger and the tongue, and then we can do it with a horn. So we can start. So I'm taking the tongue and just pushing the tongue up against the back of the teeth, kind of through the teeth to stop it completely as I keep blowing. So essentially what we want here is we want the continued airstream with the tongue stopping the vibration. Instead of having this airstream that's starting and stopping, that it just doesn't work that well. This is a little bit of a tricky problem to solve in young students. When you get past figuring out how to set up sort of a good embouchure, this is the second most common problem. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, this problem is such a pain because the kid can do everything else really pretty well except for doing the articulation. So, I've seen kids all the way up to like their junior and senior years in high school that have done it, articulated wrong. And then so trying to get them to break the habit at that point gets kind of challenging. So maybe these are some tips that if you'll remember we talked about this, then in 3 or 4 years when you're teaching and you run upon a kid that has this problem, you can go back, watch this video, be reminded of what we talked about. And if you try it with the kid and it doesn't work real quick, just give me a ring and I'll be happy to help you. So I hope that helps you out. Let me know if you have any more questions or comments or concerns, requests, and I'll be happy to make some videos for you. Take care.